from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
Welcome to the first episode of Beer Talks, Kirbside edition. For those, most of you that you know me, I'm Kirby. This is good old Justin Curtis, and we have Brian Helton with us, the infamous man. Thank you very much
for
coming
you guys.
and hanging out.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
We love it. So we are going to start off by tasting some beers that came in this last week. We've got a really good German-inspired American lager, and then we're going to dive into the comment that a lot of you guys were really interested in, and that's the difference between New England and West Coast IPAs. We're going to do so by sampling some that we have for sale in-house here, as well as you can go and support the local breweries, and we're trying Brian's brand new West Coast IPA, the Clear Intentions, that we've got on draft here, as well as please go there and support Helton. They have incredible beers. We're super, super excited.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Excited to try some of these beers.
Let's do it.
Yeah, the first one we got, guys, is from 1912. It's called 1730. German-inspired American lager.
1912 has a strong military background for their brewery, and so it's named 530 because it's about the good time to drink, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh, this has rye in it. You can definitely tell the rye.
Yeah, definitely.
A little spice from the rye.
It certainly has that like German Pils smell to it for sure.
Hey, Kaya. I know you.
Hi, Kaya. She's so cute.
Well, I like the rye. It's kind of unique. Typically you want a slow spice character. You usually get that with sauce, so they're definitely use that rye to back that up. That's kind of nice. That's a nice little trick.
Yeah.
I could drink this by the pool.
Yeah, and it didn't affect the color too much. When I read that, I was like, oh man, I wonder what this is going to do to the color, but it didn't affect the color at all. So yeah, that's well crafted.
So how does rye normally affect the beer?
Typically, the level bond of rye is always going to give a little bit more color, and when you're dealing with a Pilsner, it's pretty much 100% Pilsner malt, right? You want that Pilsner aroma, and then the lager characteristics, that's where you're getting your sulfur, and then your spice character, well, you get that from sauce. So for them to use, rye in there to get a little spice character, I like that, it's totally unique. And it didn't affect the color, as you guys can see. I mean, that color is perfect as a Pilsner, so yeah.
What are we going to do next?
All right, guys, let's do on to the topic. So we're going to start off with BRI, Beer Research Institute in Mesa. They're New England Hazy. New England, well, we're going to talk about hazy versus New England versus West Coast and all that kind of stuff. Brian, is there a difference between New England and hazy?
Oh gosh, not really.
Are they just the same thing?
I mean, hazy's been used so much now that even a typical IPA should be hazy, and the typical beer geek was, if they're drinking a clear beer, like that's why we did Clear Intentions. It's such a throwback to the old school, but we're adding so many hops these days, and the aspect of making a beer hazy kind of is indication that the beer has a lot of dry hop material and it's more fruit forward. So it's almost everything is hazy these days. But when you're looking at a Northeast or the hazy aspect, it just kind of gives an indication that the hop vegetation is still in suspension, which means a fresh beer.
Nice.
Cool.
I like that.
So when you say unfiltered versus hazy, what's the difference there?
It's going to be impossible, I think, almost for anyone to filter out and say it's filtered and keep it hazy without, working more of a colloidal chemical stabilization, which I don't think anyone wants to be doing, unless you're kind of a big guy doing massive packaging across multiple state lines. But yeah, if they're going to be filtering it, you're looking at more of a clear beer compared to hazy. It's going to be more fresh. It's indicative of, like I said, hops are in suspension. It's going to be more of that fruit forward juiciness that we're looking for these days.
So a lot of times, because we get this question a lot when people come in, they'll say, oh, I want a juicy IPA, or oh, but I don't want it hazy, or I want it unfiltered, but I don't care if it's juicy or not. And I find that it more often than not seems like the beer community has just come up with a ton of different ways of describing essentially the same thing.
Right.
That the process is the same as far as how they're produced, what they're using in it. It's just slight little differences of what gets brought forward in that process. Is that kind of correct? Or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. All right, let's move on
Cool.
to tasting it.
Sweet.
Taste it.
Urban art.
Urban art.
Cheers, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beer rye has been always synonymous with a good IPA, especially this one. It's definitely that fruit forward, that juice you're picking up.
Yeah.
How we brew these beers are so different than how we were brewing them like 10 years ago. 10 years ago on the West Coast, since we're kind of talking about it, it's mostly like a freight train of IBUs hitting your palate. What we're doing with these beers now is more for the flavors and aromas that you guys are wanting. So all of our hop additions are on the back end, or not even on the boil end whatsoever, on the whirlpool or just dry hopping. By doing it, you're getting more of the juice flavor and aromas, which this one totally has. And they're known for doing this. They always do a great job at it.
Yeah.
So you can tell how juicy this one really is, and it's a good example of what they're trying to do.
So this one, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, has lactose in it. Am I wrong?
It does, yeah. So that's something else that a lot of breweries have noticed with making milkshake or hazy IPAs. They are starting to add that lactose quality into it.
Uh-huh.
Give it a little bit more of that mouthfeel, kind of the texture that they want. Have you found, at least in your opinion, or just in when you've brewed a beer, when you add lactose to something, do you feel like it ever sometimes can take away from what you're trying to do, or are you worried
Have
about...
you ever added lactose to any of your beers? I don't think you have you?
I do on my milk stout.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
we've always added to the milk stout. Adding to my IPAs, there's a couple different reasons why people would use lactose and to kind of make it that way. When it comes to the body, if you're looking at to do that, there's other ways of doing it. So it all depends on what people are trying to do. But yeah, it's a milk sugar, what lactose is. And it can bring something to the table that can enhance. I mean, when we design these beers, we're designing it with, a certain flavor profile, aroma profile. What happens with alcohol being lighter than alcohol, it thins out the beer. So to get that body back in the beer or give a different mouthfeel, it all depends on what the brewer wants to do and how he designs it.
Nice.
Excellent.
I like that. So something to note, though, too, if you are lactose intolerant,
Yeah.
probably won't want to drink this beer.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's a big one. I know we get a lot of times here. People are like, oh, I can't have, like gluten is such a big thing now, and that's why ciders are getting so much bigger.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times now I'm getting them, well, does it have lactose in it so that I know whether to drink it or not?
Yeah.
So the next one we're going to try is by Bottle Logic. They're out of Anaheim. So while the first two, obviously 3 of the 4 beers that we're trying are local, we do love our Bottle Logic here. And this one's kind of a fun one. It's a peach hazy IPA, so you're going to notice a lot of white and yellow peaches that they added into it. As well as, I thought this was kind of a fun story. They actually brewed this beer initially for Disney, their Disney California Adventures.
Yep.
And it was only supposed to be at the park. And obviously, with all of this, Disney shut down, and so they decided to release it to everybody. So we're very fortunate to get something you'd have to go to Disneyland
peach.
for.
Yeah.
Get the peach.
Amazing aroma.
Peach is there.
Holy
Without even.
moly.
Wow. Fuzzy Logic. Sorry, I forgot to introduce. Cool can there. They're always good cans. Fuzzy Logic. Good name. Good can. Let's see how good the beer is.
Oh, wow. I get a lot more white peach.
Yeah.
That kind of almost like the difference when you eat like white
Wow.
grapes.
Yeah.
versus like a green, or it's got that. Kelly's making faces at me. Hey. I love it. That's really interesting. So this kind of segues into, we were talking a little bit before we started about how different breweries make things hazy.
Yeah.
And I know I'd love for you to kind of go into, this is sort of the basic process of how an IPA can become hazy, and then just some little differences of things that people are doing. Some are adding fruit, some are doing you were talking about like brewers are doing apple mashes and kind of funky things to make things hazy. And, you know, how does that process work? And then what's your opinion as far as doing that versus keeping it traditional?
Sure. All right, to start with, then let's just kind of look at how this style came about. It's somewhat debatable, but in all reality, this style came about because the Northeast brewers, Vermont, New Hampshire, they were trying to mimic a West Coast IPA. In other words, large hop additions. Ironically, the water chemistry is kind of what made this style the style. So the water chemistry on the West Coast is kind of a 2-to-1 ratio. As brewers, it's all about ratios, you know, but it's a 2-to-1 on sulfates or chlorides. Where on the East Coast, it was a 2 chloride to 1 sulfate. So what chlorides were kind of adding to the table was not so much harsh bitterness. So when the bitterness is missing, you're picking up on more of the flavor of the aromas of the hops.
Huh.
2, it kept the suspension of the hop materials, and the yeast that they were utilizing kept everything more in suspension. Typically, you know, small breweries like myself, we don't filter. So by not filtering, now you're getting these hazy beers. But the water chemistry really emphasized the flavor and the aromas of all the hops they were using. So consequently, they made their own kind of style by accident. And by dropping the IBUs slightly, as these brewers started doing, they realized instead of taking the harshness up front like a freight train, like the West Coast was doing, 10 years ago. And mind you, this is 10 years, okay? Not
a lot
today.
has changed in the beer world.
Yeah, no comparison of like, oh, Helton's wrong, but this is like 10 years ago that they started realizing the beers got really juicy. And this is around the same time that some really good hops were coming back or coming to the mainstream, such as Citra, Mosaic, Nelson, which no one could get their hands on back then, but it was still around to the point everyone was freaking out about all these new, really fruit-forward, tropical aromas, tropical flavor hops. So it was just neat to see that a new style came about, new hops were coming about, we dropped the bitterness, and it was all about the flavor of the hops, not necessarily how hoppy can we make it. Because there is a point that, we all know these hops and know the beers. We wanted to make freight trains. We wanted to just go right through your palate with the most bitter, tongue-scraping IBUs beer that you can do. And it was almost like a competition. It's a stupidly amount of hops we're adding for bitterness. Now it's just the opposite. Yep. Now a lot of these IBUs are anywhere between the 50 and 70 range that we're dry hopping at 2 to 6 to 8 pounds per barrel, that are giving all these flavors and aromas. So now they're more sessionable as well. So by making them more sessionable, we're enjoying them more. We're not getting palate fatigued. We're getting the flavor of the hops. And it's great for education because now these people are going, hey, I really know what Citra is. I really know what Mosaic is.
Yeah, it's great.
So it really got the beer community kind of involved to where they're realizing, hey, this is what I like. And once we hear that, we start to brew it.
Yeah.
You guys want those tropical notes? Boom, we'll give it to you. Prior to that, it was all about, more the citrus notes, the centennials, the cascades, the chinooks, all the ones that are kind of built the IPA West Coast side, we went away to that and went away more to the tropical notes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to see how the hop farmers are playing around with some new hops. We get a hold of them, we give them out there, people love them, we start brewing them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Here we go.
Well,
I know 10 years ago I didn't touch many IPAs because of that bitterness.
Same.
Now it's my preferred.
Yeah.
I love me a hazy, but I even like some of the West Coast stuff still.
Sure.
Yeah. I definitely, they're making West Coast with Citra.
Absolutely.
So it's really this fad, which is not a fad anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
Has really gotten me into IPAs because I was always the malt guy, the good old stouts and ambers and browns.
Oh yeah, I think my first I was always a Miller. I told you this the other day. I've always been a Miller Lite girl. It's like that was the college drink and everything, and I really didn't get into IPAs until the last few years. And I think it's because of that.
Yeah.
Anytime I had one, it was so much just like, oh, in your face, and I was like,
Yeah.
why would anyone drink this? But then now that
Sure.
I've been able to taste a bunch of different ones, certain like local brewery Tombstone, for example, they do all of those single hop series,
Yeah.
which is so cool. And so then someone who, is kind of a layman that wouldn't be able to tell the difference, they can now try these things and go,
What's up,
okay,
Yusuf?
well now I can recognize Simcoe, I can recognize Citra, and then I know it's helped me so that when I go out somewhere, I may see it and go, okay, I know it's an IPA. As soon as I know what hop it is in it, I'm going to know if I'm going to like it or not.
Yeah.
And that's really pretty cool to, I don't know, it makes you feel really sweet when you're like,
Right.
I know what hop this is.
Well, and this is kind of off the subject, but the single hop, and this is not product placement because we don't have nothing to do with these guys, but I love what they're doing. I think they're about ready to come to Arizona. If so, I'm going to try to get a keg and put on. You guys should too. But you can get it in cans, and it's a hop tea. So they have a green, they have a black. Then what it is like they just use Mosaic or Simcoe or Citra in a tea product in can, and it's phenomenal. It's really great because you can like just drink the tea, cold brew tea, with this hop, and you can just really, really get the flavor of those hops. You're like, now you know exactly what Mosaic tastes like. So it's great for home brewers or beer enthusiasts to try to like. There's a lot of things that we do, and very rarely can you find like Wheaties doing a single hop series.
Yeah.
You can really buy this tea and try it, and it's really great. So.
Were they at Strong Beer
I
Festival?
think they were.
Yeah.
They were here about a year
We
ago.
were right
they dropped
next to them, and they brought a whole bunch. They were so good.
They're really good. As a beer person, you're like, this is amazing.
Well, Lagunitas
Yeah.
makes the hop water.
Yeah.
Have you had that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
great.
hop water. It's just water and hops, and it tastes great.
Yeah.
It tastes
Yeah.
great.
Absolutely.
People are like, where's the alcohol? Well, no, it's a refreshing, nice hop water,
Yeah.
which we carry, by the way.
That is product placement.
God, I wish I could remember the name of those.
So I got a question for you, Brian. Brian, we were just talking about all the stuff that people, you kind of described the science behind hazies and everything.
Yeah.
Kirby touched on it. What is kind of some of the craziest stuff you've seen or heard about people adding to make it hazy? Be nice.
Be nice.
Hashtag be nice.
No, like I said, brewers, the beauty of this industry is we're all experimenting and going outside the box. And that's the beauty of it. It's whatever they need to do to, add the flavor, add the body, or just be funky and try something different. I mean, that's the beauty of what we're doing. But really, if you got your water chemistry right and, you're working on the pH and you keep everything in suspension, you can traditionally use oats, you can use wheat. Using wheat flour, there's a lot of things that people can do that can add what you're looking for, but it also could muddy it up a little bit. We are talking about a little bit more of a delicate beer because the IBUs are branching down below 70s. They're a little bit less alcohol than, let's say, a West Coast or a double IPA. So it's still, there's a line that you need to look at that can muddy a beer up and mess up what you're trying to represent with these hops. Because all of the hops that we're dealing with, they're more on the aromatic side and flavor side. So if you're anything that can happen, with your adjuncts, that could actually take away from that. So it's a very delicate balance, But yeah, there's purees, there's fruit. There's actually people that literally just add fruit juice to it.
Yeah.
They will really want to accentuate those flavors and aromas. So every beer is designed, in the brewer's mind to represent what they're doing. So, but yeah, all the way from lactose to you name it. There's all kinds of things we're putting into these beers to accentuate baseline. These hops are more tropical notes.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Excellent. All right. The star of the show here, Helton's Clear Intentions, which we currently have on tap.
As well as you can get it at Helton Brewery.
Yeah.
They can get a dupe. They aren't filling growlers, I know that for sure, but they've got some fresh ones for you that you can get filled up. I took one home the other day, and I think Kelly and I, it was gone in like an hour. It was just super easy drinking, really It's wonderful. This is our West Coast IPA that we're testing out today. Tell us, Brian, kind of what your goal was, what you were looking for, what you wanted to make with this beer.
All right. At the time, I think we already had 4 IPAs on. Black IPA, single hop series. We had our house IPA, Northeast. What we wanted to do is kind of give like the old throwback to the West Coast, just because, well, we got tired of drinking all their other IPAs, so it's nice to go back. So this one we went classic. It's all about Chinook and Magnum, Cascade. So you got your citrus.
You don't see that many anymore.
So the Chinook is a little bit on the spice character, but then we wanted to keep it a little bit more modern. So we dry hopped the shit out of it as well, and we used Mosaic and Simcoe. So you still got your modern day type of hop flavor and aromas, but typically, let's just say this one's 90. This is 90 IBUs. You would try to get around with Northeast, around 40%, maybe 30% of your IBUs with a hop bittering, or 0% bittering. It's all on the kettle at the end. That's what we're all doing. So this one, we went back and said, shit, let's get 40% of our IBUs with our first kettle edition and boil. So it is a little bit more of that bitter upfront smacking in the face. But because we took some of our dry hop techniques that we've been doing, we bring it back out. So you still got a lot of the aromas, but it's not necessarily so tropical. We didn't want to, do anything like the Northeast. But, Mosaic and Simcoe. Simcoe, I fucking love. Oops.
It's all right.
okay.
It's all right. There's no kids. No kids
But
watching.
it's got that. When you use a lot of it, which I love, and it's kind of a weird thing, but it does have a gear oil type of vibe to it. And when you're doing a really resiny, high IBU beer, it just works. It's that West Coast type of resin that I like. It's got that pine. After you swallow it, it brings some air in your mouth. You just got a little bit of that pineness. So yeah, we just went kind of like a classic. This is just kind of an old school West Coast, nothing fancy, just a simple malt bill, and let the hops take over.
Yeah, you definitely get the bitterness up front, but you can taste that dry hop at the end, and it definitely rounds out really well. It doesn't stick with you like some do.
Yeah.
That's not my cup of tea. Those palate wreckers
Yeah.
that you're talking about. This is very nice at the end. It's very very smooth at the end. You definitely get the bitterness up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is nice. Well done.
Yeah, thank
Well
you.
done. Very well done. When can we see our next or our first Helton glitter beer?
Glitter beer.
Yeah. Never, Eric.
Never.
No.
We talked about this last week. You are gearing up into Saison season.
Yeah.
You've got a few of them coming out,
Yeah.
including your plum.
With the weather changing, we kind of missed the whole Saison season, but we are still doing our Saison. We love Saison. It's one of my favorite styles of brew. The beauty about a Saison is typically we always control the temperature in the brew house to keep the ester formation down. So we have glycol that goes through the brewery, that goes around the tank, and part of the fermentation process is heat, CO2, and alcohol. Well, once that CO or the alcohol starts to be produced, it becomes a little toxic to the yeast. So there's a fine line on getting that yeast viable to go to the next one, and that's also a very flocculent yeast. Or not flocculent. So we can't get many generations out of it. We're going to try to get 3 out of this one. By doing so, we're going to do a series of 3 Saisons, typical farmhouse to get it going. And then I want to do a black Saison. It's been done so many times.
Wow.
But I got this crazy idea in my head. I want to play around with a black Saison. And then last year we did a plum Saison that, we just were screwing around because we did get one more harvest out of the yeast. And we're like, oh shit, we got another one. Let's do something.
Why not?
Yeah. So we
I
got
had that one. That was good. I had
Plums
that
were
one.
in season. It had a beautiful color to it. Saisons are typically hazy, as you guys might know, because that yeast stays in suspension. There's another thing. If it's in suspension, the yeast is there. It's not flocking. In other words, I can't harvest much of it. Follow me? So if I can harvest a lot, then we can move it to another vessel and use it again and again. That's what we call generations. So we're hoping to get 3, and if we're lucky, but for sure, we're going to get the black Saison out there soon and our plum Saison.
That's awesome. That'll
Awesome.
be fun.
Yeah.
Black Saison. I like that. I know we enjoyed your black IPA.
Oh, that's one of my
That was
favorite
really
beers.
cool.
You know, I'm not lying. It took me 10 years to get that beer where I wanted. You know,
Wow.
it was first. A lot of you guys remember Sublime from Stone. It was one of their black IPAs. They no longer do it, which is unfortunate. I love that beer, but it was just getting the body in that beer at such a high alcohol and getting the balance. Is by far, hands down, the hardest beer is a Pilsner. Pilsner tells no lies. You'll hear us talk about that in another series. But a black IPA is extremely difficult as well because now you're mixing two worlds. The malt world, high alcohol, so now you have to have body. And I could never get the body where I wanted it to. The beer was great, the hops were there, but I just kept on wanting more and wanting more. So just like all brewers, we're never happy with our beer. If you are, I don't know what's wrong with you because tell me, I'm never happy. But you can't wait to do it again. And as you do it again, then you make these minute changes and get it. If you do a bunch of changes, well, shit, you don't know what you did that you liked. So, you know. So we're tormented, I think, as brewers. You know, I mean, we might say we like it, but in all reality, we can't wait to change and do this differently next time. So yeah, that's been a work in the progress for a long time. But yeah, I love those styles of beers. You know, I wish more people would do them. You know?
Not very common. They're not super common. Black IPAs, black lagers.
Yeah.
You know, black saison. I don't know that I've ever had a black saison.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever have.
Cool.
Yeah, they're fun to do. You know, anytime you're trying to, you know, interchange or, you know, mix cultures and play around, it's kind of unique and different.
That's
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're excited to come try them. No questions at the moment.
No other questions.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk real quick about kind of what's coming next for all of us. I know a lot of you guys have heard about places doing some reopenings and starting to kind of get a little bit back to our new normal, I guess. What are you guys looking to do as far as hours and opening and letting people back in to check out Helton?
All right. It's. I gotta shout this out. The Arizona Brewers Guild has been absolutely phenomenal through all this, with educating us and giving us information as it's been coming through. So thank you. You know, cheers to the Guild. Rob's
Cheers,
done a
Guild.
great job, and the whole team. Thank you. But we're getting the information. It's a little bit more open than we thought. There is not really a capacity restriction, which is kind of neat. That's always been a scare. But, you know, we're going to open up normally. I'm going to reduce my menu by quite a bit on the food menu. That way we can kind of test the waters and not open like a full freight train going down the road. But yeah, we're going to open up on Monday, and I might take an hour off and, you know, at night instead of being open till 11, maybe 10 o'clock, see what happens. But we just got to test to see what you guys are going to do. A lot of you guys might be saying, no, we're going to be out drinking every night as late as we can. We don't know. So, but yeah, we're going to open up. We're excited for this. It was a storm. It was a hit in the gut that knocked the wind out of all of us.
Yeah.
None of us seen this coming. But I'm very happy to not hear of any closures, you know, that I know.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy, and here we are. We're going to be back, and it's all because of you guys being beer drinkers and supporting and hitting places like the Casual Pint, buying beers, hitting my place. Just going out there and supporting. It means more coming up. Just because we're open doesn't mean we're out of the storm. Please remember that we make all of our money spring training in the spring, and we live off that during the summertime, and those sales dip. So the real test of time is who's going to make it past August, September. You know, so don't stop. You know, get out there, support your local bottle shops, go to your breweries, keep this going, because we're going to need it. You know, and as this happens, you know, and we all get through next fall, we'll be all happy.
And then we'll throw a big ass party.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yes.
Of like the beer fest of all beer festivals coming out of this for sure.
Absolutely.
There'll be like so much for, you know, strong beer or American or whatever. It's just gonna be like free for all, just bring everything.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll go all day and all night.
We do have one more question. We got time? Do we have time?
Yeah, we've got a
Sure.
few more minutes.
He says,
Oh, it just scrolled off. Hold on.
I'm ready for more spontaneous and mixed culture beers and AZ in the future for Helton.
Yeah, that's kind of difficult. And the reason is we have to look at how you do spontaneous and mixed cultures is temperature related. So at this time when we're at 104 up to 110 degrees, you're not going to get what you're looking for. Ryan up at Dark Sky is doing a phenomenal job because they have more of an ambient temperature that is indicative to that type of beer and fermentation, especially spontaneous like you're asking. But for us to try to do spontaneous fermentation to a cool ship when our temperature is this high, well, we'll go beyond making saisons, put it that way. You know? So that's why you don't see a lot of sour houses traditionally here in the valley is temperature. If you're up in the mountains, higher altitude, it's more achievable. You know, so yeah.
Good to know.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Sean says, boysenberry sour, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. Yes.
Yeah, one of my favorites. And if you haven't had the chance to try the newest one, the raspberry pineapple, oh my gosh, I could drink that all day. It's so good.
Yeah.
And I know, I mean, don't get mad at me, but I like to mix sours with IPAs and the boysenberry and your New England IPA together.
I have not tried that yet.
So good.
I need to.
I know a lot of brewers get really upset when you mix their beers. And
No,
I think
to me, I just, everyone they have their folly, whatever they like. And then, I think that's almost how one of my styles came about is someone took one of our sours home and they mixed it with champagne, and they were like raving, and then they mixed it with this. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We brewed something like that.
Your first reaction, what the hell?
Right.
No,
How
but
dare
it's the flavor compounds that they've layered together that they enjoyed, and then you think to yourself, it's like, well, I can do this way or this way, and I'm like, all right, you're inspired. I mean, that's a lot of this happens. We'll sit here and drink a beer and be inspired, and it's like, oh, I wonder how they did that. You call the brewer up, and one great thing about this industry is we all share everything.
Yeah.
So there's no hidden secrets. We share recipes and techniques, and if you're inspired by something, you run with it.
I love that.
Yeah,
and that was
absolutely.
something about like the teaching industry. Like everyone is all about sharing information. There's no, well, I took the time to learn it this way, and no, I'm not gonna. You figure it out on your own. Everyone hears so much. Just culturally, I think that's the best thing about craft beer and the craft beer industry in general is everyone is so supportive of each other and just so much like, how can I help you? How can you help me? And like we can just, whether it's trading secrets on how to brew something or just supporting. I think that's a big reason of why we've all kind of gotten through all of this, right? Mentally right now is that we can all call upon each other and talk and rely and give support. So, Justin, as far as hours for the pint, what are you thinking?
We will
what are we doing?
We will be doing some prep work all early next week, and then next Friday is when we're going to start to open up. So next Friday we will see you guys
15th.
On the 15th. Yes, Friday the 15th.
Yes.
It's close to the 13th, right? No, we will open with limited capacity restrictions and that kind of stuff, but there will hopefully be enough room for everybody. There's definitely enough beer to go around for sure. We will get that draft wall going, nice and fresh for you guys for next Friday.
Awesome.
Our hours will be 12 to 8 to start off, and as Brian said, we'll let you guys determine our hours from there. If you guys want to come till 9, 10 o'clock at night, let's do it. Let's rock it.
Yay.
Let's all support each other.
I love it. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I just really want to, of course, thank you, Brian.
Oh, we got one more. Sean asked, I want to know this one. Is the raspberry pineapple sour going to be canned?
Ooh.
No.
No.
Sorry.
Done.
That one we kind of did with the Wandering Tortoise, Justin. What we did, anytime we're doing a canning, where I'm at now with my cans, we bought our own canning line. we'd almost have to sell 3,300 just to do a pallet. Everything costs, unless it's going to be a mainstay where we keep it. If we like it, then possibly, but that was kind of a collab that we just wanted to see what that would be like. We liked it. I think our next sour is going to be a strawberry rhubarb. We're going to bring that one back. So they're starting to become kind of seasonal as well. It's like, all right, well, we got to get this sour in. Let's do this one. So we always try to have 2 or 3. It sold well. It tastes really great. We're digging it. Not to say that we won't can it, but as of right now, I think we're almost done with that one anyway. It went really quickly prior to all this happening, and people were buying it like mad in the growlers. So, not to say it's not going to, but right now you won't be able to get it anywhere in cans. It's just right now at the pub.
Awesome.
Next Wednesday, drum roll, we are doing all things light beer. If you've ever wondered the difference between a lager, a pilsner, a kolsch, maybe a blonde, any of those wackadoodle things that are all things yellow on our board, and light beers, we're going to go through them and talk about differences, nuances, different stuff to taste, as well as really highlight. Dark Sky is coming out with a whole bunch of new light beers, so we're really going to be featuring them, giving them a shout out, as well as talking about Brian's amazing Pilsner that he has on tap that is canned, if anybody wants to get it anywhere. And thank you so much.
Don't forget Shift Caffeine.
Yes, definitely Shift Caffeine, amazing cold brew. You can get it here as well as over at Helton. Purchasing it over at Helton, you guys are donating proceeds, right? Or
John
he
is.
John is, sorry.
John. I mean, this is how cool this guy is. Through all this, he's donating 25% of the sales of his product back to my staff. He sends it directly every week to their Venmo accounts. So not only is it a great product, great logo, but also an incredible human that is giving back.
Absolutely. Hi, John,
Awesome.
if you're watching.
We love Shift Coffee. We drink it like crack. Don't do crack.
Do Shift.
Do Shift. I love it.
There's her t-shirt.
Right,
Yeah, right.
right.
Don't do crack, do Shift. I want 10%, John.
I love it.
Kirby gets 10.
I just want a t-shirt.
Anyway, all
That'll be
right,
fine.
thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much for
Yeah,
watching.
cheers. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Cheers.
All right, thanks, Brian.